And we're live. Hi, everybody.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Morning Rachel.
This
Um,
is our TTRPG talk show, where we maybe talk TTRPGs. I mean, really, we've just been talking about Marvel spoilers in the green room for the last little bit. I'm one of your hosts, Anita. My pronouns are she, they, and down here.
I'm Noir. My pronouns are he, they.
And we've got an amazing guest today. Mark, tell everybody about yourself.
Hello, I'm Mark. I use he, him pronouns. I do voices in video games, and I also play a lot of RPGs. Especially over the last couple of years, I've been playing a lot of them online in Zoom meetings like this one.
I've got to say that. It's. I'm sure you hear this all the time, but you've voiced my favorite character, Shepard. I had to put that out there. Love it.
The Alliance thanks you for your service.
So we have like a condensed episode today. So I really wanted to just jump right in and kind of get into your history a little bit. I mean, we were talking earlier in the green room, and you kind of mentioned like you have a long history of just being in nerdy spaces. So I mean, how does one go from just playing D&D as part of your childhood to like being the voice of some of the coolest nerd icons out there?
Well, I'd say that there is a fairly direct line because when I was a kid, the school that I went to didn't offer any sort of drama program or anything like that. So my first acting experience, my first improvisational experience, my first experience doing voices really for the public, as it were, was at the Dungeons and Dragons table, especially when I was being a dungeon master, because when you're a dungeon master, of course, you will be doing a bunch of voices. You will be certainly performing, and you will be improvising, because let's face it, your players are not going to do what you think they're going to do.
No, they never do. They never do. And I'm pretty sure they never do it on purpose.
No, they're just, this sounds like a good idea to me. And there's certainly no way that you can anticipate everything your players are going to do and have everything meticulously planned out. So yeah, some of my very first improv experience, I chalk up to Dungeons and Dragons.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, and I should mention that some of the very first voice work that I ever did in video games was for Dungeons and Dragons based games. This was for back when BioWare was working on the original Baldur's Gate games. I just attended a cattle call audition and managed to get a gig where I got one line in the final cutscene of Baldur's Gate 2, and that one line just led to more and more work with BioWare, and eventually ended up being cast as the lead in the Mass Effect trilogy.
So how did they sell you on Mass Effect? Because like now we know Mass Effect is like this amazing franchise, but at the beginning of it, I remember when first previews were shown of Mass Effect, people were like, this is like a Star Trek knockoff kind of deal. Until they grew to love it. So like, how did they pitch that to you?
They went, we got a Star Trek knockoff. We want you. No. By that point, I'd been working with BioWare for a number of years and working on, pretty much every game they'd put out in some capacity since the original Baldur's Gate games. So I'd mostly been doing antagonists and NPCs and monster voices. That's what I sort of tended to do. When I was brought on, it was in the very early concept art stages of the game, and I was brought on to create a bunch of alien sound sets. Essentially, what do the baseline members of each alien species sound like? And during that process, I was asked to audition for Shepard and didn't think I would get it at all. But I knew at that point that BioWare was great specifically at RPGs. And
Right.
I'd done work on Knights of the Old Republic, and I'd done stuff on obviously all their Dungeons and Dragons based stuff, also IP that they owned like Jade Empire, and I knew that they essentially wanted to create their own IP and create their own worlds. So when I signed on to Mass Effect, it was already a very rich world. Like they gave me like a stack of information on the alien races and their history and the universe itself. So I could see going in, even at those early stages, how dense and well developed the game world was going to be. So yeah, it certainly didn't strike me as a Star Trek knockoff going in. It seemed to be, it's like, this is going to be a very immersive RPG, and of course that is what happened, because in Mass Effect, if you wanted to, you could spend hours just reading codex entries, just finding out about the world, and that's what makes it so fully realized.
I mean, it really was amazing to see how quickly gamers kind of came around. Like, I mean, like it was immediately consumed, and then it just kind of became part of the culture. Like, it's like wildfire now. Like, I know more than 5 people with Renegade or Paragon tattoos at this point.
I'm always glad when people decide to fly the Mass Effect flag on their skin, as it were.
I have to ask you, are you more Renegade or more Paragon? It's a silly question, but
when one is portraying those characters, you have to give equal weight to both dialogue streams. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's face it, Renegade has more fun. Like the Renegade interrupts are pretty fun to voice.
That's true.
And when I myself play any game like that, like whether it's Mass Effect or Knights of the Old Republic or Fable or anything that gives you that morality system, I usually, or Fallout, I will usually do my evil, quote unquote, evil playthrough first, so that when I do my good playthrough, I feel like I'm redeeming myself for being such a jerk on the first playthrough.
I can't be a jerk into a video game. I can't be a jerk to this collection of data. Why? It gives me anxiety. I hate it.
Oh, I've been a jerk. Like, Fallout 3, for example, it's like, oh yeah, I blew up Megaton just to get a nice apartment from that rich guy. I sat on the balcony and watched the mushroom cloud. And then on my second playthrough, I saved Megaton, and I think it was easier to do it that way around, because again, it felt more like a redemption arc than if I'd played my good playthrough, and then on the second one, it's just like, but I know all these people, I can't nuke Megaton.
I can't be this point.
Yeah, I tried to do a good guy run through, and then I ran into that reporter in Mass Effect, and I was like, well,
Elisa Algelan.
Yeah, and I was like.
I should mention that reporter is actually played by a very good friend of mine, and her brother was actually the best man at my wedding. So April Bannigan is her name, and she's fantastic.
She's fantastic because she, like, in a very little amount of time, she really inspired true anger from me.
That's the tabloids. The tabloids will do that.
There's a question from chat for you. Do you ever feel thrown off playing video games that you are the voice in?
I'm used to it by now. A lot of people do ask me, it's like, oh, but it's so weird to hear your own voice.
Yeah.
But not only playing video games that I'm in, but even before that, I did a lot of sketch comedy, and I write, and I was a producer on shows that I've done. So I usually have to watch dailies, and I have to give notes on editing. So hearing your own voice that much, eventually you do get used to it, and you do just sort of become acclimatized to that.
Yeah.
And of course, being a nerd myself, I gotta play the game that I'm the main character in. Of course, I must.
That's kind of
that's a flex. I mean, one of the questions here that I have that I want to ask is just like, you're obviously known for like Shepard, but you do so much. Like, you're all around the nerd space in such a way. Like, I was kind of like, when I was looking you up, I'm like, wow, I didn't realize you're like everywhere. Do you ever kind of want something else spotlit more than Shepard, or are you kind of okay with everybody asking the Shepard questions first and then getting?
Yeah, no, I never get tired of that, because again, I feel like I owe Shepard. It's like, Shepard contributed heavily to my mortgage. Shepard is the reason why I'm a homeowner. So I never really tire of that. Of course, that's the one that casts the widest net. So of course, that's the one people are going to ask about. I never really feel like it's like, why aren't people talking about my improv show more? It's like, I'm sure the people that came to see it will talk about it and enjoy it. But yeah, I think it's reasonable to assume that most people are going to know me from Mass Effect.
I kind of want to. I mean, you brought it up. I kind of want to get into your improv, which is, I truly believe that one of the things that really helped me personally with GMing is studying improv. And have you noticed a use of any of your improv tools in your GMing, and which ones are like which ones have helped you the most?
Oh, yeah, I'd say that you basically apply all the tools that one learned. Like, you know, when you go in and learn a basic improv class and learn about narrative and forwarding scenes, like things like saying yes and accepting and not shelving offers. And all of these can be applied around the RPG table. In fact, a friend of mine, Tara Oaks, down at Dad's Garage Theater. They're a company that I often do improvised Dungeons and Dragons with. She has just started a workshop, improv workshop, but it's specifically for improvising at the RPG table, whether it's D&D.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it is a really great idea because there is quite, the Venn diagram of improvisers and tabletop fans is like, it's basically a circle.
It is basically a circle. There's little to no portion of that doesn't actually overlap.
So yeah, definitely all of these things. The entire point of Dungeons and Dragons is, of course, collaborative storytelling. As the dungeon I've said this before, but as the dungeon master, you are not just I am telling a story to my players. You and your players are telling a story together, and so. In this sort of collaborative storytelling, yes, the lessons that improv teaches you can definitely be applied.
I think that is absolutely brilliant what your friend is doing, because like a lot of times I tell people like the thing that helped me most with RPGs is improv, and to have a class specifically about pulling those tools at the table. That's good.
And as I mentioned, I have now sort of come full circle, and I do a show called Improvised Dungeons and Dragons. I'm certainly not the only improvised Dungeons and Dragons show in the world. I know that, but I do have, I've got a specific format that I use. So in my format, I essentially do what a dungeon master would do around the table. So we've got all the players in full costume with all their equipment and weapons and everything. And I'm sort of in a more neutral black robe. And I do everything a dungeon master would do in that I play everyone they encounter. So I'm all the monsters, but also all the townspeople and, their mentors and people who give them missions. And I consider that coming full circle because, as I say, Dungeons and Dragons is what sort of got me into being a professional pretender.
Oh, that's a cool title. We have another question in chat, which is where can people sign up for the improv RPG? Improv RPG class.
Well. This is the thing. You would probably have to live in Atlanta, Georgia, because that's where Dad's Garage is located. Dad's Garage, fantastic improv theater. Its alumni include Amber Nash and Lucky Yates of Archer fame, if you're any Archer fans out there. And I get to play with them on a regular basis when I go down and visit them. I was just there a few weeks ago when they began their latest run of improvised Dungeons and Dragons. They've got... again, just a fantastic crew of improvisers, so I always enjoy going down there. I usually DM their first show of the season when they launch that. And this year, Dungeons and Dragons has been so successful that they actually extended the run till the end of May, and I believe I might be visiting them again for another little round of dungeon mastery.
Oh, that's so cool.
Heck yeah.
So I've seen that you have been around a couple of conventions, like you're convention hopping, and I'm kind of curious, what is your favorite and least favorite thing about conventions?
Favorite thing about conventions? Well, I'm a nerd, so it's the shopping. Let's face it.
Yeah.
I have a collection to maintain, so I do enjoy the shopping. That is usually my go-to thing at a convention. I want to hit the merch room first. And beyond that, especially conventions like, say, Dragon Con that are very cosplay heavy. getting to see the immense creativity that people bring to the table, especially Mass Effect fans in particular.
Oh my God, yeah.
The cosplay is always a very high caliber, and the props that are made and things like that. So yeah, that's what I go to conventions for. And my favorite convention of all, yeah, it probably is Dragon Con, also in Atlanta. And I've been going to that as a fan since 1998. And in more recent years, of course, I've been lucky enough to get to be a guest at that as well.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. Let's see. You know what? Because we are running a condensed version, I'm gonna ask one of the many questions that I ask our guests. Oh boy, there is a war in the TTRPG community between those of us who consider dice to be dice. They just dice. You grab them, you roll them, that's how it goes. And then there are some people that see them as forbidden candies, one that people put in their mouth and crunch on. So Mark, I have to ask you, what side of the field are you on? Are you stop the crunch, or are you part of crunch crew?
Well, I mean, dice. I there are certain dice sets that I've got my Black Dice Society dice right here, just in grabbing range. So there are certain sets of dice that I keep close to my heart, and that I have a nice little case that I put them in and that sort of thing. But I'm not too precious about the dice. If I'm just as happy to click a button for the random number generator as I am to pick up a die. I don't have a thing of oh no, I have to use my dice to roll. I'm fine either way. In the scheme of things, in the whole RPG thing, I'm more in it for the RP than the G. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're more of a role player than a roll the dice player.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, so it's you're kind of in the middle. So I kind of nudge. We could nudge it over to stop the crunch, maybe. You don't want to put dice.
I don't
I'm
want
not
to
biased.
I do not want to begrudge anyone who has a huge dice collection, because many of my friends do.
Dice neutrality.
Okay.
And as I say, I have certain dice that I keep in a nice little wooden padded case, and then I've got a plastic jack-o'-lantern filled with dice. As many people do, just a big repository of dice. But my dice collection is certainly not as impressive as some people I know.
Oh, we got another question in chat, which is, I'm curious, what is in Mark's traveling GM kit if he has one?
I do have a traveling GM kit because I just got back from D&D in a Castle, where we started up again after a couple of years of enforced inactivity. But that is exactly what it sounds like. It's us going to castles in the UK, real castles, and playing D&D for a few days straight. It's a lot of fun. And so, of course, for that, I did need my traveling GM kit. So what have I got? Oh, actually, here, I will need to run away briefly, but I'll be right back.
You're absolutely fine. All right, he's gone. Listen, Chad. I don't care. He wants to be neutral. We're going to see what side of this field he's on.
It was probably the most beautiful Canadian non-answer that I've ever heard in my life.
So, in my traveling GM kit, I, of course, would carry, let's see. So I usually have my laptop in this, which is a sort of spellbook that I've got for my laptop. I, of course, will carry this with me at all times. Okay.
Is that a dice? Is that a dice box?
Yes, it is. Also looks like a spellbook.
Oh.
Things have shifted. But as you can see,
this is gonna make me spend money today. I can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Like that. A collection of dice, all the minis that I had that I needed for my game, maps, and actually Yarrow Studios. I just used their big interactive battle map book, which is, I love the Dwarven Forge stuff, and I like, the Warlock tiles, and I have lots of that stuff, but that was not as practical for me to take over to the UK. Luckily, D&D in a Castle has a bunch of in-house stuff that I was able to use. And Satine Phoenix was very kind and lent me her custom Dwarven Forge Yawning Portal build.
Ooh.
And coincidentally, I had a scene set in the Yawning Portal. I was, it was going to be like a 15-minute conversation, mostly sitting at a table. But once Satine brought that and said, "Oh, I have this, you can use it," it's like, okay, the first hour at least is going to be spent in here. So I built the Yawning Portal. This is something else that I have in my traveling.
Okay.
It's just like a collection of beautiful grimoires. I love it.
Oh, thank you. This is actually a monster manual.
Is that a sleeve? Like, how does?
It's an awesome sleeve that can be applied to any of your rule books. This one is specifically sized for the 5th edition monster manual. And I
want all of this.
And here is the Yarrow Studios very kindly gifted this to me when I was at PAX. And this is their book of battle maps, which, as I say, is quite handy.
Holy
Perfect. You just pull it open.
Mm-hmm. So I used this one quite a bit because I was doing a nautical adventure. Right before D&D in the castle, I did D3 at sea, which is D&D on a cruise ship. And the adventure was actually set on the fantasy equivalent of a cruise ship, which was this castle built by an archmage that was on the back of a dragon turtle. And they had, things like shuffleboard and various cruise ship activities.
You have D&D in a castle and at sea? Holy smokes.
Yeah, so I combined it. It was both D&D in a castle and D3 at sea. And I used the same campaign for both D3 and C and D&D in a castle.
I was just about to ask, do they provide you an adventure when you do that, or do you get to create your own adventure when you do that kind of stuff?
I think we generally all create our own. I think if one wanted to run a classic module, I don't think anything would stop you from doing that. But in general, I think we all prefer to create our own adventures. And sometimes, often tailor them to our particular player groups as well.
I mean, the next step is we've got D&D in a castle, D&D at sea. We need D&D in space. Somebody's got to make it happen.
They did. I want to say it was for Satine's birthday.
Yeah, they did it in
they did it like in a plane. So it was like, not quite in orbit, but
I was just playing.
No, it happened. It happened.
Yeah.
I think the next step is to do the one that does, that big arc where you get 0G for a while and just
you just roll it rolls forever.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll find out what we got. What's one of, these are all memorable experiences. What is one of your most memorable gaming experiences that you've had?
Well, let's see. I've had a few recently. Actually, I've been one of my characters. I've got his mini with me right here. Baloth Baratil from Idle Champions Presents, and of course, Champions of the Realm. I've been playing Baloth for a few years now as RPG. I actually voiced him first in a video game before I ever actually properly played him in a D&D game. He was in the Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition that Beamdog put out. And he is essentially, if you remember Mojo from the X-Men or Arcade, his MO is very similar to theirs. He first showed up as a villain who sort of kidnaps groups of adventurers and then makes them fight in his weird sort of
Murder
World game show, WWE wrestling match kind of exhibition called the Black Pits. And I subsequently played him at D&D Live and a number of things. Most recently, I played him in a series of games from Idle Champions. And we did one very high-level adventure called The Trials of Mount Tiamat, which involved many high-level, well-known characters, all DM'd by Mr. B. Dave Walters. And Baloth managed to get the killing blow on Tiamat, who had already given up by that point. But that's not how Baloth tells the story. So a power word kill that he cast from the Wand of Orcus, which he also got on that same adventure. So yeah, that's those two big feathers in Baloth's cap. And again, that's a recent thing that's just happened. Also, on the Black Dice Society, I just got to face off. Well, we all got to face off against
Strahd
von Zarovich, but Strahd von Zarovich portrayed by Mr. Jason Carl,
Yes.
the storyteller for LA by Night, and of course a fantastic vampire in his own right. So that was a fantastic game as well. I won't give too many spoilers, although I think some spoilers are already out there. But let's just say my character faced some repercussions.
Just a skosh. Just a skosh
Yes.
of repercussion.
There was a skosh of repercussions. And Black Dice Society is one of my favorite campaigns ever because it's a fantastic bunch of players. It's also DM'd by B-Dave. And Ravenloft has always been one of my very favorite settings. So getting to do that, getting to not only play Brother Uriah, who's the party cleric, and he's my regular PC character, but I also get to play one of my favorite D&D villains of all time, Aslan Rex, the Lord of Darkon. And we do him oftentimes in full costume with prosthetics and the whole bit. So yeah, that's these I've had a lot of my favorite D&D experiences very recently.
I have to say, one of my favorite moments with Brother Uriah particularly is PAX Unplugged last year with the Rivals crew. You guys kind of did the multiverse stuff before multiverse got cool.
That's
in the
true,
sense
yeah.
that, like,
and as a matter of fact, I think that was before No Way Home was released too.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we got in there. That was great. I love getting to guest on Rivals and watch their live show and actually be part of it. So yeah,
that was really cool, and they definitely needed the help.
Oh yeah, I saw what they were going up against.
So I mean, with playing these established characters, have they become officially canon in WotC-verse yet?
Well,
I know that. Yeah.
I do know, like, Baloth, of course, first appeared in a video game that was a licensed WotC video game. So I think he is actually WotC canon. I think he does exist.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like if Minsk and Boo are canon and they're from the Baldur's Gate games, then that means that any other NPC would also by proxy be canon as well.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's how it works. And I, of course, cannot take credit for creating Baloth because he was created by the writers at Beamdog, particularly Andrew Foley. I think was the guy who certainly did a lot of work on Baloth if he didn't create him outright. And he also was the one who brought in all the alliteration that, especially you see in the second game, that he got more and more alliterative as time went on. And I try to maintain that, but it's a little more difficult to constantly be alliterating when you're improvising all of your dialogue. So I try to work it in whenever I can.
Didn't you have an NPC like that, Noir?
We don't talk about him. I did the alliterating thing 2 sessions and then I had to stop. So I've gotta have you kill your darlings. Who's your favorite character that you play?
I mean, it's hard to choose between Baloth and Uriah because, again, they cover the full spectrum. Baloth is chaotic evil. Uriah is lawful good. So, yeah, it's very much a Paragon Renegade choice.
Yeah.
I would say Baloth is more pure fun to play because he is, of course, an agent of chaos. But the stuff I've got to do as Uriah has been very fulfilling. Some great role play. But on the whole, my favorite character to play is probably Aslan Rex. Let's face it.
That's also going to be challenging, playing a lawful good character in a setting like Ravenloft, where there are so many like gray or like choices that you have to make in order to stay that sort of pure path of righteousness.
Most definitely. And especially under like the old system where you constantly had like corruption checks and things like that.
Yeah,
that's not quite so prevalent in the 5th edition version, but it's certainly there as a theme.
So I'm about to hit you with the next question that we ask everybody. You get to play with any 5 people, any 5 living people right now. You get to choose who's the GM and what system you're playing. What's your table look like?
Okay.
We've had some interesting ones, like with Vin Diesel and Cardi B and all sorts of just like names you wouldn't expect when you attach it to TTRPG. So I'm excited to see where we're going with this one today.
Interesting. Well, I mean, the proper answer would be, of course, everyone who's in the Black Dice Society, and I'll see you on Thursday for that dream game because
Perfect plug.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a really impressive cast.
It's a great cast, and I love playing with them. But let's see. Although I know Matt, and we've even had meals together and things like that, I've never actually sat down and played with Matt Mercer, so that would be fun. And of course, you want to be DM'd by Matt, clearly.
Yeah.
Let's see.
The double M gang at the table. I like it.
Who else? I mean, Stephen Colbert, obviously. You want to get...
Yeah, he's real good, too.
And let's see, other people who've recently stuck their toes in. Yeah, I bet there'd be a seat at the table for Jeff Goldblum. Why not?
Yes! This table's lit!
Okay, so we've got Matt as the DM. We've got Stephen Colbert and Jeff Goldblum. You know what? I've had the pleasure of playing with him before, but I'm always happy to play with him again. Let's get Luke Gygax at the table as well.
Okay.
And let's see. I've never actually played, even though we were both in Champions of the Realm. I've never played with Deborah Ann Wall, so let's get Deborah at the table.
Okay, well that's a table.
That's a good table.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Did I fill all the seats yet?
Yeah, that's fine.
Stephen Colbert. Wait, hold on. Stephen Colbert, Matt Mercer. Oh my God, my brain just went.
Deborah Ann Wool.
Is it Deborah?
Deborah Ann Wool.
Luke Gygax.
Luke. Oh no, there's one left.
Well, I guess we could get Joe in there. Yeah, we could have it in his house in the awesome dungeon that he has. Let's see.
I always mangle his last name, so you got to say it for me because I'm just gonna go Joe.
Manganiello.
I believe Manganiello.
Okay, there it is.
We said Goldblum. We forgot to.
Oh, and Goldblum. So there you go.
6.
All right.
Perfect.
We only got 6. Now Joe can't play, but we're playing at his house.
We've just co-opted the space. That's how this works.
All right. The next question that we always ask is: you are God Emperor of TTRPG for one day. Anything that you will happens. If you want a company to just sprout from the ground and be as big as Wizards, it can happen.
Okay.
Whatever you want.
Can I wish for more wishes?
Absolutely not. We're going to Latin rules.
Okay. So So anything that I want to happen in the
TTRPG space happens.
Okay. So anything I want. Okay. Let's see. Bring back the original Marvel superheroes role-playing game with Phase Rip.
Actually, I do want that.
You do? Okay. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I've played the new Marvel multiverse game.
Actually, I have not played that yet, so I'm actually very interested to look at that. I go to Phase Rip just for nostalgia.
I thought this was like you played the new Marvel and you're like, I want the old one back because that's where I'm at right now.
I have not had the pleasure of playing the new one yet.
Okay, well let me know what you do. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it.
It's interesting how it. I got thoughts.
It's just not my cup of tea, but it's a fun game.
Go. Let's see what else. Oh, you know something? I'd like a print copy of Dragon and Dungeon magazine to come back. Because I used to subscribe to those. I would get those in my mailbox. So I miss print copies. That said, there are a lot of great RPG magazines out there, that are obviously electronic versions.
Arcadia by friends of the show. Yeah,
I get a little advanced copy of Arcadia every month, and I'm very grateful for it. And it brings back that feeling of opening the mailbox and oh, my subscription has arrived. And I've really enjoyed a lot of the articles in there as well.
I think that's being put together by Joe Intricasso, which is just
or James.
James. I've got Jones on the brain. Yeah, like James Introcaso.
And Matt Colville and Hannah Wild Rose Mage. She's involved in that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of good people behind Arcadia. So
and a lot of excellent art, I have to say, as well.
And some really cool like features to add to your game, which like I never really paid attention to Wizards and Dragons magazine when they were out. So I didn't realize how much they added to gameplay. But I'm kind of getting that sense with Arcadia. They're like really cool monster suggestions and stuff. Really cool stuff.
Back in, the 80s and whatnot, a lot, my home games were pretty much entirely drawn from Dragon magazines like that. All the variant rules and things like that I incorporated those wholesale.
Yeah. See, I'm trying to. Man, Anita, you gotta help me with some of these questions. Like, we usually run like 4 or 5 of them for every guest.
Okay. Yeah. So we did the God Emperor question. We did the players. We did the crunch question. I think the last one that we have to ask is that guy question.
That's right. So. I've got to do the whole spiel. If you've been in the tabletop community long enough, you've probably had the displeasure of playing with that guy at the table, which is a veritable black hole of fun. Someone that if they were yeeted into the sun, your experience at the table would increase tenfold. So, Mark, have you played with that guy?
I'm not sure if I have. I think I've been very fortunate, certainly recently. That I have not encountered any that guy situations. I mean, if you go back far enough, again, I've been playing since the early 80s. So yes, I can think of certain situations. I feel like though it would be petty for me to bring them up. Like one time in junior high school, this guy killed my character and I didn't like that. So on the whole, I have to say, especially in streaming stuff, I found the community to just be so cooperative, so supportive, and everybody committed to the narrative rather than, I want to get so many experience points or gold pieces. I mean, it used to be a much more focused on that. It's like, I'm going to have the most powerful character, and clearly I am the main character in this story. And sometimes, you did run into that sort of thing. But these days, I think it's a much more collaborative thing. I think that people are much more aware of the storytelling aspect of it. And I think you see that a lot less often. Again, I'm playing a lot of games that are being streamed for the public, so people are probably on their best behavior. Either that or I'm that guy, because if you're like, oh yeah, I've never encountered that guy, and it's just like, oh no, it's been me the whole time.
It was me the whole time.
You did bring up something though. Like, I find that one of the things that frustrated me about 5th edition when I first started was I'm like, where's my +1 swords? Where's my +2 swords? Like, where's all the loot? I feel like cutting down on loot has really brought out the best in players. I mean, there's still loot to be had in 5th edition, to be sure, but it's not nearly as present as it was in 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, they did get rid of weapons only go up to +3 now. They used to go up to +5. Yeah. I'm sure that's going to creep in, and it's probably already crept in people's home games where it's just like, oh, this is a +6 sword, things like that. But I do think for the most part that has, as you say, that has helped. Also, they got rid of. It used to be possible to like just really double up and like have things stack where it's I've got this that gives me the +5, and then this gives me an additional +3, and then by eliminating that, so it's just the general rule is like, no, things don't stack, so you can't. Also, people used to wear like I've got a magic ring on every finger and things like that. There were some rules in place to deal with that, but now the sort of like, no, you get 2 magic rings, that's it, and you get 3 items you can attune to, unless you're an artificer or you have a special feat or things like that. That has sort of put the focus more on your character as opposed to all the crazy stuff that they carry around with them, and I think that's been good.
Yeah, when I first got in, it made me cry, but yeah, now I'm grateful for it.
So I have a question.
Yes.
I You've adapted a few of the characters that you've played as a voice actor into
Mhm.
the TTRPG space. Now, if you could do that with any other of your roles, which one would it be?
Hmm. Well, there is actually a character that I guess I've played him in some streaming games. It's a character that I played in my TV show, Tiny Plastic Man. And that was I was co-created that series. It was about three guys who worked as prototype testers at a struggling toy company. And I believe for any American viewers, it is available on Amazon Prime. We were on Amazon Prime in Canada for a while, but being a Canadian show, of course, we're no longer on that. I'm not sure, but I think we are available on Amazon Prime in the States and the UK, I think. And I took October, the character that I created for that, who was essentially as a very sort of laconic goth, and ported him into a Dungeons and Dragons game as a warlock of the Great Old One. Because even on the show, he was a worshiper of Cthulhu. He and so a warlock of the Great Old One made the most sense. So
Nice.
yeah, he's a character that I created and I played for several years on a TV show, and I have brought him into the Dungeons and Dragons world.
Heck yeah. Yeah. Um, I miss Tiny Plastic Men. It's not in my Canadian lexicon. Must have been
Ooh.
during that time. Now I have
Oh,
something
you're
new
not
to
the only
watch.
one. Don't worry, you're not the only one who
Came
didn't
out in
see that show.
2012. Now I need to watch it.
Yeah, we've got 4 seasons.
I've been corrupting you with my American presence.
It's true. It's true. I've been missing out on Canadian pop culture for a while. Uh, but yeah, that's very exciting. I think, do we have another question in chat? Have you ever played? I had one question in chat because you are a fan of Marvel superheroes and the like. Have you ever played
Mhm.
Masks?
I did, yes. I got to guest on a number of streams playing the mass system, and I the last time I played, it was a version of Hunter S. Thompson, uh,
Ooh, I love it.
who I have a one man show called Fear and Loathing in Lovecraft, where I play, and that it's basically what it sounds like. It's Hunter S. Thompson meets H.P. Lovecraft and the
Like
Cthulhu mythos.
Eldritch Horror. I,
Eldritch Horror, yeah. So
I
instead of going to a road trip on to Vegas, he goes to Lovecraft Country. And funnily enough, I just this week finished recording the audiobook of the novel that I adapted that play from. Brian Keene and Nick Mamatis wrote a book called The Damned Highway, Fear and Loathing in Arkham, and I adapted it into my play Fear and Loathing in Lovecraft. And more recently, they got a hold of me and said, hey, we would like you to do the audiobook for The Damned Highway. So that was, again, coming full circle.
awesome.
I got, I gotta ask, if you could give any advice to up and coming voice actors, what would it be? Because I know a couple of people that are just getting into the scene, and it's kind of, I feel like there's no like right way to do it. It's just the way people have discovered. So I'm very curious as to what advice you'd give.
Sure. Oh, first I should mention, because I forgot to plug them, Critical Bits was the show that I did the Hunter S. Thompson character, Sheriff Duke,
Oh, okay.
played him on. And now voice acting. I always advise people, because people often ask me, to, again, improv is something that teaches you a lot of lessons. And a lot of the lessons that it teaches you can be applied to voice acting. Things like being able to drop immediately into character, being able to be present in a scene. And a lot of the times in voice acting, especially in video games, you don't get a lot of time with your script ahead of time. You essentially go into your session, and that's when you're seeing the script because of secrecy concerns or sometimes just scheduling. So being able to just hit the ground running is a very valuable skill to have.
The next question that I have is like, what is it like to kind of watch something that you worked on explode into pop culture? Like, is that frightening or is it more exciting? Because I mean, for me, I'd imagine if I'm working on something, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but then to see it just go boom, like now there's expectations. Now people have ideas of who you are, what you're about, and there's a desire for what you provided to that project that wasn't there before. So like just, watching some of the stuff that you work on explode. Well, where'd that put your mindset?
I'm definitely more on the excited end of that spectrum. I remember the first time when I was working on Mass Effect, I knew it was going to be a good game because BioWare does good games, and
right.
Quality often leads to success, not always, but often. I wasn't prepared for how big it was going to become, like that, how much a part, again, as you say, of nerd culture that it would be. It really, there were a couple of moments that it really hit home. Like when I first got a Commander Shepard action figure, it's like, oh, there's a this is not a custom figure. This is a mass market figure that, of a character that I play. So that was really fun. The first time that somebody walked by me at a convention dressed in just like an immaculate lit up set of Mass Effect armor, dressed as Commander Shepard, that also really
hits home, hey?
Hit home, yeah.
I mean, I know that recently there was a teaser shown, and all it was Liara finding an N7 piece of armor in the snow, and the internet lit on fire.
Yes, I've seen that trailer.
I mean, with that response, I mean, I'm sure that you kind of already realized what Shepard meant to people and like how beloved the character was. But after Mass Effect Andromeda came out, and they were starting to move in a different direction, it's very clear that the love for that character hasn't waned in the slightest. As the voice, as one of the voices for that character,
yes,
how does that hit?
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, it's certainly very gratifying to see the love that character still has. And you have to remember that Mass Effect and Commander Shepard was one of the very first fully voiced protagonists. Up until that point,
yeah,
when you had games in that style, but when it came to your character's turn, it would be a block of text. Select this block of text. This is what you say,
yeah.
And then you wouldn't hear it. And so it just increased immersion, and I think it increased the ability of the player to identify with the character. And beyond that, it also made it more of a viewing experience. So I've heard from so many people, couples who either one or the other of the couple was the one playing, and their partner would have been sitting and watching them play like it was a movie, and they'd say, it's like, oh yeah, no, I watched the whole thing. It was really engaging. So knowing that, I think that's why Shepard is still so engaged with the fans, that why there's still such a real connection there. And again, it's very humbling in a way sometimes, because I get people coming up to me and at conventions, and certainly I think all the other voice actors have had this experience as well, where people talk about how Mass Effect got them through very difficult periods in their life, and a variety of obstacles, like whether it was health concerns, whether it was family troubles, people in the military who were stationed overseas. And this game that we all worked on together, was a lifeline for them. And as I say, in a way, it's sometimes like really humbling that something that you worked on helped someone, got them through such a rough patch, or helped them persevere. That's always really, really amazing to hear.
Absolutely. And it's wild, because we're seeing the influence of Mass Effect on like the properties like Star Trek. We're seeing a lot of Mass Effect influence on that. We're seeing it on Star Wars. So it's brilliant to watch. And this is just a fun little question for me. How many times have people asked you to tell them something is their favorite thing on the Citadel? Like, I know you have to be.
And I don't mind. I'm certainly not someone who's like, I'm tired of that catchphrase.
Or at least just be like, hey,
I'm
listen.
more than I'm more than Commander Shepard. It's like, no, I never begrudge that.
But at the very least, set up a cameo and be like, hey, if you want me to say it.
Oh, I should mention, I am available on Cameo for all your Mass Effect catchphrase related needs. Like, yeah, you can book me on Cameo easy. But yes, people often ask me to do that at conventions, and I don't mind. It's funny that probably like an equal amount of people ask me to say something that is not in the games at all, which is, well, bang, okay, which came from the Manslayer parody videos. And I was a big fan of Manslayer, like for, their Skyrim stuff. And I was very, very excited when they did the very first Mass Effect video. I think they've done, at least half a dozen, maybe more Mass Effect things. So yeah, I was over the moon when Commander Shepard was essentially given a new catchphrase. And I've written that phrase on Mass Effect merch as much as any line that is actually in the game. Probably more.
Beautiful.
I'm very amused by the fact that that's the line that people hung on to from the official game, and that's the line that people hung on to that wasn't in the game.
That wasn't in the game at all. And then another line that is in the game is, of course, I should go. And that was certainly never intended as Shepard's catchphrase. It's just that's how they tend to end conversations. But because both Jennifer and I said it so many times, it became the de facto catchphrase of the character. And I really like that the actual catchphrase of Shepard is something innocuous like that.
Speaking of, I want to make sure that we're being respectful of your time. So I think we're down to the wire here. So is there anything that you would like to let our fans know? Is there anything like you wanted to make sure that they check out? Anything of that nature?
Well, let's see. Now, we have mentioned the Black Dice Society, which is
absolutely
every Thursday on the official Dungeons & Dragons Twitch and YouTube channels. We are, let's see. I think I can mention that, I do things with Idle Champions on the Idle Champions of Forgotten Realms channel, and there may be some further future developments coming up with that. We will see. We will see. I'm also on a podcast, Stitch of Fate, a podcast by night, which is a Vampire the Masquerade actual play. And you can listen to that pretty much anywhere you find your podcasts. Another great crew. We've got Little Red Dot, we've got the Bubbernut, we've got Gaming FTL, and our storyteller Mathis Games. I really enjoyed that. We started that during the pandemic, and it's been a great chronicle. So I've really been enjoying that. We just wrapped up our second season, so they're all waiting for you to listen to for your listening pleasure. Let's see. D&D in a Castle. I did mention that I just got back from that, and I'm going to be doing that again in October. As a matter of fact, we've got in the October castles, I believe we're ending things off with a big Halloween party at the castle.
Ooh.
So that's probably, that's definitely a draw for me. So I'm going to be there. And I think I'm definitely going to theme my games to the season. It's going to be a very spooky Halloweeny game from me.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. What else? Oh, and of course, I'm available on Cameo for all your catchphrase related needs. And I have been doing, actually, people have been getting me to do on Cameo, like little NPC things for their Dungeons and Dragons games.
That's awesome. That's clever.
Someone asked me to do little character intros or whatnot. There was also, I played a Rakshasa NPC, and luckily I had a tiger mask, so I put that out for that one. So yes, I am available for any little D&D cameos that you want to do via Cameo.
Just a short blurb. The first time I met Mark, you were in a full-on vampire mask.
I was.
I just love that you randomly had a tiger mask to go along with the request.
Oh yes.
Well, I believe that's us. That's us to the wire. So, you can find us. You can find me everywhere as TheNoirEnigma. That's Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Anita?
Hi, you can find me here most times. We've got a new slate of shows coming up, including a Wanderhome campaign, a new Dungeons & Dragons game, and a couple other things. Plus, we are also going to be bringing back The Lost Frontier and Queer Society for a second season. So check those out. New announcements for all our shows are going to be coming out fairly shortly. We're not going to have an episode of Morning Ritual next week because Noir and I are actually going to be over on Q Times for their little. They're starting to do a quick fundraiser for their next season of shows.
Yep.
So we're gonna go be in a Star War.
Yeah, we're gonna play Jedi's with Eric Campbell and Sam DeLev. It's gonna be a good time.
Fantastic. Well, speaking of fundraisers and of Eric Campbell, please do watch my Jasper's Game Day game.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, May 10th. That'll be on, I believe, the D&D Beyond Twitch channel. And we've got Eric, we've got Gino DeVivo, we've got Trisha Hirschberger, and we have KP Studios. Thank you very much. And they'll be joining me and a couple of members of the general public. And of course, we are raising money for Jasper's Game Day. That I believe our game will be at 12:30 p.m. Pacific, 3:30 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, in that case, I'll be modding.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
So yeah, that's us today. Why don't we go ahead and, speaking of Sam, why don't we go raid Sam the Lovely?
Is Sam's online?
Yeah.
Oh,
You gonna
heck
raid
yeah.
Sam?
Yeah, we're gonna go say hi to Sam DeLev.
Please say hello to them for me.
Heck yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, or as we call them, Thanos.
Thank you,
I had not
everybody.
heard that one. That's good.
This has been an amazing episode. Thanks so much, Mark, for stopping by and
Thank
hanging
you
out
for
with
stopping
us.
by.
But until next time, everyone, the ritual has concluded. Bye, everybody.
Bye.